Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Two Down Territory. We're going to be recapping week 7 and looking forward to week 8, where I'm going to screw up even more of my predictions.
Yeah, last week was, I took a risk. You tried to play it safe. It didn't pan out for you. And I'm up big. And there's
You
no
took a risk.
game.
I wouldn't say that I played it safe. I think I took even more of a risk and I paid the price.
No, I feel like the reason I'm saying, we'll get there like later in the episode.
Okay.
You played it safe because you picked the Browns to beat the Dolphins because of Dylan Gabriel and the Browns.
Or
and
the
you said,
Dolphins
surely
to beat the Browns.
Dolphins can't be
Yep.
right. That's what I meant to say. Because of Dylan Gabriel and the Browns, and you said surely they're going to keep it close. Two bad teams. You never know what's going to happen. I picked the 5-point underdog. I took a risk. You played it safe.
I can't refute that. I can't refute that.
So let's talk about that risk that I took. Because, of course, what I'm talking about is the Cincinnati Bengals, my team. My beloved. The Cincinnati Bengals took on the Pittsburgh Steelers on Thursday Night Football, and Joe Flacco had himself a night. He went absolutely crazy in prime time in those white tiger uniforms.
The Flack attack. I don't
Thoughts?
know. I mean, it was the Unk Bowl. That's what it was.
It was
beautiful to watch.
geriatric
I mean,
bowl.
beautiful football.
All of those things.
Completely removing your immense victory in our point betting competition. It was a great football game to watch. I have more to say about the game and what I think about both of these teams long term, but I'll let you take your victory lap.
Okay. So the first thing, here's my notes. The first thing I have written down is I was right. And that's the biggest takeaway here for everyone. No, here's why I was right. Because every single, obviously the Bengals, when you're a fan of a team like the Bengals, there's ebbs and there's flows, there's highs and there's a lot more lows. And they really give you Stockholm syndrome. You're in an abusive relationship. You feel as if there's this shred of hope and it's immediately taken away. But what I saw and what made me, and the reason why I was saying that the Bengals have a chance in this game is because there is a recipe for success that I believe that Joe Flacco could accomplish. If you have been paying attention to all of my Bengals tanks throughout the year, as soon as Jake Browning started, it was always, let's create a scheme that's easy for the offensive line. Let's take away the pressure off the offensive line. So what does that mean? It means short passes. It means utilizing the screens. It means utilizing slants and quick outs and doing all of the things that gets teams out of pressure.
Everything that Andy Reid has done for the last 3 years.
Right. Everything Andy Reid has done for the last 3 years, everything that Shanahan did as Mac Jones came in, all of those things that I'm seeing working, and to be clear, historically have been the most successful for the Bengals. Everyone remembers the Bengals as this team that were these underdogs who had all these explosive plays and these deep balls to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins when they went to that first Super Bowl. And while that's true, what we saw after that is that that's clearly not a sustainable way of creating and generating offense, especially with how bad the offensive line was. That was not a case study that we should use to direct how an offense should be created. Rather, it was an exception that led to an incredible season. But we still need to understand the basic fundamentals of football and realize that 99% of the time when Joe Burrow gets sacked 8 times, it's not going to lead to a playoff victory. So what happens then is the Bengals start off the season, and this is partly to do with Joe Burrow, and I think partly to do with Zach Taylor. They start off the season with this concept of, we have to start fast, we have to get all these points, we're going to hold on to the ball, we're going to take a bunch of sacks, and we start slow. And then we settle in. we take a step back and we say, let's just get our playmakers involved. And so what do? We start doing the quick game. We start doing screens. What does that do? It opens up the run game. It spreads the offense out. And when we do that, we have way more success than we ever did with the explosive plays. And that's why at the beginning of the season, we suck. We're trying to repeat what we captured in that's when we went to the Super Bowl. And then we make this miraculous comeback simply just because we finally start doing the things that we obviously should do based on the personnel that we have. And so what my thought process was, understanding that context, my thought process was going into this game, the Bengals, I would not be shocked if this is the game where the Bengals start finally doing that. And the Joe Flacco pickup forces Zach Taylor to create that type of scheme. Because if there's one thing Joe Flacco knows how to do, it's to not take a sack, because he's going to get rid of the ball. In the first half of the Packers game, we saw this same scheme. Let's run the ball in order to set up the deep pass. It didn't work. Joe Flacco threw away the ball 100 times because he was immediately pressured. He was throwing it at players' feet. He was clearly uncomfortable. In the second half, we come up, we start doing screens. I believe the first play of the half, it was this situation where we had Jamar Chase on one-on-one coverage. The cornerback was like 10 yards back. And then you had a linebacker almost in the slot, a little bit out, but more towards the inside of the box. We've seen that look 100 times this year. And every time we see it, I yell, throw the ball to Chase. Like, surely there has to be a check that is built into this offense for the quarterback to be like, oh, look, that guy's 10 yards away and there's no one else near him. Just chuck it to Chase. Joe Flacco chucked it to Chase and he got a 6-yard gain on first down. And it was those types of situations where we're starting to build an offense where we're making it third and manageable instead of third and long. And it opened everything up. And so for this game, it wasn't a situation where the offensive line all of a sudden magically became good. Right? It wasn't a situation where the Steelers' defensive line all of a sudden became bad. It was a situation where the defensive line didn't have time to make an impact, which created confidence in our offensive line. It forced the Steelers' defense to spread out. It created running lanes for Chase Brown. And it was an overall system that played to the strengths of the Bengals, right? Because before, the order of operations was we're going to throw the deep ball. That is going to open up the run, we're going to run the ball first. That is going to open up the deep ball, and then we're going to intersperse these like short screen plays here and there to keep the defense on their toes. Against the Steelers, here was the order of operations. Quick passes and screens, which is going to set up the running game. And then once they realize, holy crap, there is nothing we can do to stop this because Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are so dominant, it's going to open up the deep ball. And that's exactly how it played out. And that strategy plays to our strengths. Chase Brown is one of the quickest running backs in the NFL to the line of scrimmage, which is really, really good for an offensive line that's not particularly good at run blocking because, you know, like our offensive line isn't going to allow for a Le'Veon Bell style, let's wait for the blocks to develop, because they're never going to develop. Our offensive line benefits from, I'm going to put my hand on you, and before you can even think, our running back is going to run past you. And that's what Chase Brown does great. And so it created running games, which creates sustainable offense. This is a sustainable system that our offense can execute against any team. And the reason why is because Jamar Chase is that good. People are surprised. Why didn't they double team him? Why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? People, as long as he's been in the league, defensive coordinators have tried everything on him, and he still put 260 yards on Steve Spagnuolo's head. He is just that dominant of a wide receiver. Yeah. Like, this is he is good enough because of his archetype of wide receiver to be able to run an offense through. And so really, to sum it all up, the question at the end of this game is, was this an issue? Like, was the previous issue before this game reluctancy on Zach Taylor's part to change the offense to what obviously needs to be done? Or was it really an issue where all of those checks and those systems were in place and Jake Browning wasn't taking advantage of it and Joe Flacco has to because he's old? So that's really the big question. Either way, the Bengals clearly have an opportunity to stay alive until Joe Burrow comes back. And Joe Burrow in the playoffs, anything can happen.
I'm glad you were able to get that all off your chest, Adam.
All right. I'm good. That was a lot, but hey, it just had to be said.
It had to be said. I have 2 points of analysis about what you just said and about the Bengals. The first one more so about you, which is I can't get over the fact that I said, why don't you go ahead and take your victory lap? And the first thing you said was, I'm in an abusive relationship and I have Stockholm syndrome. That's how you had to provide context for your victory lap. We took this was a good day. This was a good night. But the other
let's
thing,
not get carried away now.
let's not.
Let's settle down a little bit.
You never know how
gosh.
the next week's going to go.
No.
The other point of analysis is simply that, and it sounds overly simplistic, but it isn't, kind of because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy of sorts. If Jamar Chase gets 15 plus and especially 20 plus targets in a game, the Bengals have at minimum a coin flip chance of winning the game. And when you're in a position where you don't have Joe Burrow, that's actually odds that you take. And so
100%.
And I don't understand, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, not just right now, but in previous episodes. Even from an outsider's perspective, it doesn't make sense to me that a guy that's clearly not in the echelon of Justin Jefferson, but also in a tier of his own beneath Justin Jefferson, why that guy is not getting the ball more. It simply doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I get that that's simple, but it is what it is. Turning to the Steelers, though, I have much briefer thoughts on the Steelers, which is, I actually think that it's going to be fine. They're still in the driver's seat of the AFC North. The Steelers, I mean, any analysis about the Steelers is almost kind of like not the inverse, but the weird sickly cousin of Bill's discourse over the last few years, where it's like the regular season doesn't matter. Like, okay. Yeah. And for the Bills, that's a higher level of like, can they get through the Chiefs? We know they're good, but the Chiefs are their kryptonite. And the Steelers is just a playoff game is their kryptonite. And so
can they get through whoever just so happens to be the team they're playing in the wild card round?
The 2 seed. Can they get through the 2 seed?
Basically. Whatever form that takes in any given season.
And so that's why, and that can be for a lot of teams in the NFL. There are fans of teams like, per se, the Jets or the Dolphins or the Browns who would look up and say, that's a problem that we would gladly have. I'm not so sure it is. And I think that Steelers fans are growing more and more discontent. Every season, it gets a little overhyped, but every season we build and build and build on the Mike Tomlin discourse. And sometime soon, potentially this season, it's going to hit a boiling point. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. Here's my analysis on the Steelers. They kind of are exactly the team that I thought they were. And, they are the team that benefited from what I think to be a pretty easy schedule. Obviously, they have that great win over the Patriots, which looking back looks like an even better win than it did at the time. But it's just one of those things where it's like they're about to get into the stretch where they're playing all these teams that are really good. And so a lot of people are saying like, ooh, you could have taken control of the division and like that's true, but it's like, what's the point of winning the division if they win by beating all the bad teams and losing to all the good teams? Because like that is basically the strategy that they would be putting in place, right? Like the Bengals completely fell off. Joe Burrow got injured. The Ravens, took a nosedive, right? Like this isn't them getting better. It's just them beating better or worse teams.
Yeah. So and that's why all jokes aside about like, they'll be the 7 seed and they'll be playing the 2 seed. The real issue with the Steelers is like, no matter who they play in the playoffs, will they actually be able to win a playoff game?
Right.
Like, even if they're the 4 seed and they win the division.
Okay, here's the thing. Right. Even if they're the 4 seed and they win the division, like the 7 seed could be like the Patriots or like, you know what I mean? Or like the Jaguars potentially. You know, they've kind of fallen off, but it could be a team where it's like, I could see the Steelers losing to them. You know what I mean? Like the AFC is kind of condensed in that sense. And
For
so
reference, their
basically
next
what
three
I'm getting
games
at
is
is that
Green Bay, Indianapolis, and the LA Chargers. They go 0-3 in that
and
stretch.
so like they lose those, like obviously the win over the or the loss to the Bengals makes that a lot worse. But in my mind, it's kind of just showing me exactly who I thought they were, which is a team that's probably going to win 9 or 10 games.
It's fair.
And a mediocre team will lose to a team who they should beat. And again, basically all the analysis that and I do think people are being harsh on and it's like hard for me not to take offense to it because it's like, oh yeah, they should have beat us. Oh, because we suck. Like, but I get it, right? Like I get the reasons why people are saying that, but also part of me is like, just like look at the context. Like, it shouldn't be that much of a surprise that Jamar Chase could go off and that would win the Bengals the game.
No.
And that the Bengals, even though they were the worst run game in the league, that when you give that context about Jamar Chase, that they'd be able to establish the run against potentially the worst run defense. Well, they're not the worst. The Dolphins are the worst. But one of the worst run defenses in the league. And so it's one of those things where it's like, I understand, like, people who are mad about the Steelers, in my opinion, have just set unrealistic expectations about what this team is based on the start that they had.
Yeah.
And so that's really it. I think that the Steelers are going to be fine. I like, they still are in the driving seat of this division, and really what it's going to take is them winning one of those games, right? Like if they can be 1-2 coming out of this 3-game streak, like that'll make a huge difference.
It will.
Because right after that, they're playing the Bengals. And if they beat the Bengals, then it's like, okay, there you go.
Yeah, exactly. But we can go ahead and move on to a game that'll be a little bit more fresh in people's minds. The Sunday night football game.
Yeah.
Falcons versus 49ers. We talk about winners first on this channel. And so we can go ahead and break this down for the 49ers. I'll give my quick analysis, which, even though we talk about winners first, this will be mostly negative. For the 49ers, I was posing the question to myself earlier today, which team is more of a mirage, the Colts or the 49ers? And I'm officially at the point where I'd have to say the 49ers. I'm far more of a believer in the Colts at this point than the 49ers, which if you asked me a week ago, I wouldn't have said so. And so the 49ers beating the most bipolar team in the NFL, the Falcons, doesn't mean much to me. Fred Warner is out for the season, tragically, our GOAT, friend of the show. And so they're 3 games above 500, and yet I have a hard time seeing this team win the division. And I think the ceiling for this team is probably scrapping for a wild card position. And I know that's negative analysis coming off of a win, but I've seen some people talking about this mainly because of the CMC revival, which is real. We have to give CMC his props.
Yeah.
But CMC is going to have to drag this team, tooth and nail to what? My point is what is the actual long-term outlook, not just this season, but for the next few years? I'm also interested to see how the handing off of the reins from Mac Jones to Brock Purdy is going to go when that occurs.
Oh, dude, I am so nervous. I'm just going to hate the discourse.
It's going to get bad.
Because, like,
I don't know how we're going to respond to it. We're going to have to make a statement.
Right now, the 49ers right now, in my mind, are at this top of this, like, ramp and this cliff. And they are on the precipice of jumping off of it.
Yeah.
And I'm nervous that is going to correlate directly with Brock Purdy coming back. And there's just going to be discourse about Mac Jones, and it's really going to piss me off.
Well, I'm
not even like that big of a Brock Purdy fan. It's because of my hatred for Mac Jones.
That's kind of what I was alluding to, which is that is inevitably coming down the tracks, both with the injuries that this team is like at one point tonight, and I get it, the defense played well. It really didn't that much. Atlanta's a team that got shut out by the Carolina Panthers. This is the most bipolar team in the NFL again. At one point tonight,
Yeah.
Atlanta or the 49ers had their third string Mike in the game, a full-time special teamers taking his
And he was
first
the
snap
green
of
top.
defense.
Like he was the guy, he was calling the plays.
Yes, no, he was the Mike. He literally,
Yeah.
like, that's not sustainable for a season. And so you're right. Whenever that drop off happens, it's probably going to correlate timeline wise with Brock Purdy's return, and it's going to get ugly.
Yeah, no. But just to talk about a little bit more positively about the 49ers, George Kittle coming back was huge for Christian McCaffrey, right? He was absolutely dominant, 5.38 yards per carry. A lot of that was because of George Kittle. He also led the team with a target share and had 9.79 total target EPA. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But I again, it's one of those things where it's like Atlanta's stuck in the game for so long. And then one thing I'm reminded of, there was that late scenario, 3rd and long, where the 49ers, they threw basically like Christian McCaffrey in the seam for the easy gain. And it turns out the Falcons had 10 players on the field. Yeah. And it's like, it just so happens that the person who was out was supposed to be covering that area. But the other thing too about the 49ers, right? I talked about George Kittle, how impressive he was and how clearly crucial he is to this run game. Like, yes. I don't think it's a coincidence that as soon as he comes back, the run game gets going.
Not at all.
One thing we have to talk about is the illegal pull into the end zone by the 49ers. That was crazy how that was never even...
Yeah.
Like, there was no anything about that. Anyway.
I don't know entirely what the rules are there, but yeah, it was odd.
But like, it was funny because the commentators or the broadcasters were like, they got their guy on to like, you know, like their special rules analyst. And he was like, they were like, so that was illegal, right? And he was like, yep. And that was the end of it. That is as far as the broadcast went. Defensively, this is why I think like there is going to be this drop off. Robert Saleh played an incredible game, right? Like his defensive approach was incredible because Robert Saleh historically is more of like a base guy. Like we're going to send, we're not going to do a lot of exotic schemes or specifically like fronts in order to, and blitz packages to pressure the quarterback.
No, he's old
like we're
going to
trust the 4 guys.
Mind.
Yeah. We're going to just stick with those 4 guys and then hope that, and if, bank on them generating pressure, which is going to create an advantage for us. With all of the injuries, he's pretty much completely abandoned that. Part of me thinks that one of the reasons why the Falcons struggled is because there's an unpredictability to that. Like, how are they going to react with these injuries? And what that's going to look like to pressure the quarterback. And so Michael Penix was under a bunch of pressure. Actually, interesting enough, Ulbrich, that's his name, right?
Yeah, Ulbrich.
The defensive coordinator.
Yeah, Mike Ulbrich.
For the... Yeah, he, you know, he was the interim coach for the Jets. He ran a similar system in the first few weeks of the season, and then he started mixing up the fronts, and Atlanta started generating pressure at an incredible clip, and really led to an incredible defense the last few weeks. That's besides the point. But as far as the Atlanta Falcons, one, they weren't able to get the rushing game going. Bijan Robinson averaged 2.86 yards per carry with a negative 0.16 EPA per play on rushing downs. And then late down scenarios, only 38.5% success rate for the Falcons and a 64.3% success rate for the 49ers. And that really was the difference in the game. The 49ers were able to sustain drives. The Falcons couldn't.
And obviously, it's one of those things where you only now know in hindsight because the game happened afterwards. But Atlanta, if they had won this game, all of a sudden, they're still very much alive in the division with the Buccaneers. Yeah. But now, even after the Buccaneers loss and a pretty relatively bleak outlook in terms of some of the injuries that Tampa Bay has sustained, the Falcons don't feel like they're alive whatsoever, really, in that division. At this point, it seems like what the last 4 years have been. You're fighting to see whether you're going to go 8-9 or 9-8.
Yep. Which makes sense when you're, so, as you said, bipolar of a team.
Yeah. I mean, you can go from 1 week losing 30-0 to the Carolina Panthers, and then the next week, you kind of completely stifle one of the most dominant regular season teams of the last 5 years in the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Insane. Insane.
But we can move to the Monday night double headers. The game that was kind of going to be, or was supposed to be, the headliner of the week turned into kind of a pretty miserable slugfest. Not much entertaining football played, with Tampa Bay at Detroit. It depends on what your flavor for football is. Whatever that game was, it wasn't my flavor.
Yeah, I think part of the because like I'm all for like a defensive stand.
Yeah, that's to be clear.
What the Lions put on didn't entirely feel like a defensive stand. It felt like clearly there were opportunities for Baker Mayfield to take advantage, and he just didn't. Like, it wasn't a situation where it was like, wow, look at how great this like, obviously there were some incredible plays, and we have to shout out the injured, right, like Lions secondary and some of the guys there that came in. But there was also a lot of plays where it's like, well, he had Abuka and he just missed him. Like,
yeah, I mean, this is obviously it's one game. We're still far out. I'm not going to say he can't play himself back into it. He obviously could, but this game put a serious hamper on the Baker Mayfield MVP chatter.
I ranted for like 5 minutes last week about Baker Mayfield being the MVP, and I immediately was proven wrong.
I mean, I think like he went from being the third favorite to dropping to like barely being inside of the top 10 in one game. And that happens. Odds fluctuate very radically throughout the season, but it was a tough performance regardless. On the Detroit side of thing, though, because diving into winners first, I'm pushing that narrative. I'm establishing.
All right, we can do it. I'm not fighting you. Like, we can do that.
We have to do this, Adam. Stop resisting.
Okay. All right.
This is starting to look like the team that was rightfully discussed as a top NFC contender. Defensive injuries be damned, the offense is loaded with a competent game manager at the helm. And I don't even mean that as an insult to Jared Goff. Like, I mean that at the utmost compliment of what the term game manager can mean. I mean it in that sense, at least as of right now, after this last week. And it has just the perfect amount of spice from Dan Campbell. I mean, just like... We were not concerned, but we theorized potentially. We were throwing out stuff in the, we were deep in the off season, and we were talking about
making stuff up, basically,
just completely BSing.
We were just,
but we were wondering, which I don't think was completely invalid. Was Ben Johnson potentially a controlling device that harnessed Dan Campbell's energy the right way? And clearly so far for the majority of this season, with kind of the exception of the Chiefs game, but there's a lot of specifics there, Dan Campbell has used his Dan Campbellness in the right way. And it hasn't looked anything more hectic or detrimental to the team than it was. The positives have far outweighed. And so all that to say, Detroit looks like an NFC powerhouse right now, rightfully deserves to be discussed as a real threat.
Yeah, offensively, and to be clear, when we had that conversation, we were specifically talking about the playoffs and theorizing again that they'll run into playoff trouble again because of Dan Campbell's kind of crazy ideas. But into this game, obviously their rushing attack was incredible and dangerous. 32 carries, 164 yards, 5.1 yards per carry. Jahmyr Gibbs played out of his mind, not just in terms of like I can read the stat line, but I don't even think you need to. I need to. If you'll watch the game, it like so many highlight worthy plays where he's just like making something out of nothing, like leaving guys in the dirt. Like, his speed and quickness was on full display. Jared Goff played well. He was a game manager, which is exactly what you want him to be. And then defensively, I got the guys' names. So they were missing their top 2 corners and their 3 top safeties. So who came in? Eric Hollett, the second, Thomas Harper, and they played safety. And then Amik Robinson and Rock Ya-Sin, who, by the way, incredible name,
Fantastic
Rock
name.
Ya-Sin. At cornerback. And then some more contributors, more in the nickel, was Nick Whiteside and Arthur Mullett, who had that incredible interception where he just took the ball.
Yeah.
Right.
Which,
From,
let's be clear.
what's his name? The tight end.
It was a great play.
1 second.
Sorry.
What's his name? The tight end.
K. Dotton?
Yeah. Kate Otten. I just had a total brain fart, and I was like, I'm not going to let this go.
But before we lose the track here, let me be clear. It was a great play by the defense. I consider that a catch.
It was not an interception.
No.
I do too.
Yeah.
It was one of those situations where the replay kind of created something out of nothing, where it's like, come on, guys, just look at it.
Yeah.
But anyway, and then big shout out to my friend of the show, Kelvin Shepherd. For hyping his guys up, getting them ready. The more I watch the Lions, the more I become a fan of him. Just the way that he interacts with the players, it's incredible. As far as Tampa Bay, it really boils down to Baker just did not hit the passes that he need to come back in this game. Because the Lions offense was really good. The Buccaneers did it. If you were to tell me at the end of the game that the Buccaneers held the Lions to 24 points, I would have assumed that the Buccaneers would have won. Right? Given before the game,
I wouldn't have necessarily assumed that they would won. I didn't think that they would lose by 2 possessions.
Well, just because if you I would have expected the way that this offense was operating and how highly they were against this secondary specifically. Yeah, I would have expected them to score
a lot. To be fair, a lot of
weaponry
out for the Bucs, but I get your point.
True.
And that kind of speaks.
But they have been in the past.
I want to take this last bit of discussion about the Bucs to give a little bit of tough love, and it's very tough love, which is projecting the next month and a half of Buccaneers football. Next week, they're going to be playing the New Orleans Saints. Let's just assume, as any sane person would assume, that they're going to win that game. They then go into their bye week. So they're going to end up going into their bye week on a happy note. They'll be 6-2 going into the bye. And then they have a 3-game stretch of the Patriots, Bills, Rams.
Mm-hmm.
That 3-game stretch is going to determine both, I think, literally, but also just as an eye test, determine whether this team is going to be a top 2 seed in the NFC, like I thought they would be, or whether this is another 4-seeded Buccaneers playing a 5 seed that might have a better record than them and is probably favored against them in the playoffs. That 3-game stretch is what is going to determine the Bucs season right there. And it's coming out of a bye week, so you have an advantage there. But this game wasn't a turning point, but it put a turning point on the table that wasn't necessarily going to be as big. Because if they win this game and then they play New Orleans, they go into their bye week, they're 7-1, probably at worst tied for the best record in the league. And then you're feeling fine. You could go 1-2 in that stretch. And it's it's a tough slate of games. It's fine. We're still the number 1 seed or the number 2 seed in the NFC. Now all of a sudden you can be coming out of that 3-game stretch and you're winning the division, but you're the 4 seed.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So that's definitely going to be a really important. They need to have a winning record is what they need to do.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. For the final primetime game of this previous slate, a game.
Oh, this game frustrated me so much.
It's closer on the scoreboard, but not really. In fact, we can go and say now the Houston score was basically a dead time touchdown. They really lost by multiple touchdowns. Seattle and Houston. Talking about Seattle first, if you want to give me your thoughts, Adam.
Well, so real quick. Watching this game, all I could think is we are so smart. And here's why. Last week, if you remember, when we were doing our predictions, I picked Seattle, you picked Houston.
Yes,
I picked Seattle because of the pressure that they would put on CJ Stroud. And you said fair, but I'm going to pick Houston because of the turnover margin. And like, maybe this is obvious and maybe I shouldn't, like, this isn't that big of a deal, but we pinpointed the exact
Exactly.
two most important influential aspects of this
Insane.
game. And it wasn't a question of which one of us would be wrong. It's a question of who would be more right, like which would be more impactful, the 3-1 turnover margin in the Texans' favor or the insane amount of pressure that Seattle would apply to the Texans'
Okay,
offensive
can
line.
I talk about
And
this?
so,
For Seattle, it's not often that a team can turn the ball over 4 times, lose the turnover margin by 3, and win the game by essentially what was really multiple touchdowns.
yeah,
How?
uh, stifling defensive pressure. And so that's where I want to start with Seattle. There's really not much to say. What I wrote down is Mike McDonald owned the Texans with the pass rush scheme and created so many advantages for his players. The other thing I'll say is that for being such a young defense, and this is again another credit to Mike McDonald, the discipline that that defense plays with is incredible in on all 3 levels, in terms of how they fill gaps in the run game, in terms of how they pressure the quarterback, in terms of all of their coverage and everything related to that. It really reminds me of the Chiefs, where it's like you don't have necessarily you have really good players, none that are like the best in their position necessarily, but yet somehow the defense is just always in the right spot. They're always where they need to be. That's what this reminds me of.
You
Where
have
like
the
Mike
2
McDonald
most
just coached
brilliant
his
head
guys.
coaches, young, brilliant head coaches of either side of the ball in the same division, with Mike McDonald on defense and Sean
Yeah,
McVay on offense. I've been saying it for forever. Mike
yeah,
McDonald is a pleasure to watch. Like, he's so good as a defensive head coach that it makes games annoying to watch.
yeah, literally.
I mean,
But anyway, so and then as far as the Seattle's offense, they did what they've been doing, right? Like Sam Darnold played in a relatively efficient game. There were times with that pass rush where it was like, oh, there goes, Sam Darnold fumbling in the end zone. But JSN is a dog. He's officially a superstar wide receiver in the league. He's more, like he has taken the leap.
yeah,
And
Jason's
an
fantastic.
efficient Sam Darnold with a great Shanahan scheme that Clint Kubiak has been running. Seattle's the real deal. They're the real deal.
Yeah, I won't go so far as to say that they're the real deal, but with looking at it just completely practically, removing the division from the picture, Seattle's currently 5-2, and they have upcoming games across the whole rest of their schedule against the Cardinals, Titans, Falcons, and Panthers. You don't have to squint that hard to see a team that's not just like making the playoffs, but a team that even if they don't win the division, they're solidly the 6 seed or the 5 seed, and they can rest guys in week
Yeah.
18. That's the outlook for Seattle right now, which needs to be getting more attention at this point.
I apologize, Seattle.
I
I was thinking back. I don't even know. I think this video it was one of our first videos. It was right when they signed Sam Darnold and they traded DK Metcalf and they got Cooper Kupp and they made all these moves. And it was like, no, it was after they let Geno Smith go and DK Metcalf and they signed Sam Darnold. And we were like, they were tanking, like they were doing the right
this
move.
is why
They
we're
were
not
off
GMs,
shipping,
Adam.
and then right, like, holy crap, like, wow, I think that might have been the most wrong I was all off season to say, because
Yeah.
I will say, to be fair, we did come around eventually. Like both of us kind of had a come to Jesus moment with the Seattle Seahawks where we were like, all right,
Yeah,
like,
before
no, they're
even the
actually gonna be a
season
good
started,
team.
this was early
Yeah.
off season, but yeah,
Like
no,
our
you're
initial
right.
reaction was, this is a team that is clearly picking a direction to not intentionally but like they're prioritizing their future over their present. And then they made moves where it's signing Sam Darnold specifically, where it was like, okay, now they're prioritizing their present.
It seemed
Boy, did it pay off.
it seemed at the time to be dissonant tones from each other, but clearly the vision was there that, let's be honest, Adam, we couldn't see.
Well, nope. I was not picking up what they were laying down, but boy, has it paid off.
For Houston, I'm officially ready to eliminate them. You can
No,
look
I'm
at the
done.
schedule.
I'm done
I
with
won't
them.
even. You know what? I will. They're officially, basically, mathematically eliminated at this point because they have games left against the Bills, Chiefs, Broncos, Chargers, and 2 against the Colts. This team is now trying to see if they can go 7-10, and if I'm a fan, tanking is on the table for me at this point.
Yeah.
Pretty much all that Texans fans can do right now is research mid-first round offensive lineman prospects and hoping that Nick Caserio can work some cap space magic. Not that they're in like a complete cap space hole, but they're entirely middle of the pack, if not slightly below average. We're a year and a half removed from the most hopeful that the Texans have been since early young Deshaun Watson. And I'm not going to say all of that good faith has vanished, but a vast majority of it has.
Here's the good news for the Texans. You have your quarterback head coach. It's one of the, because here's the thing. It's funny because what do we always say? When you're starting a team, right? What are the 3 positions you want? Quarterback, you want an edge rusher, and
A head coach.
you need a good head coach, right?
Yeah.
They actually kind of have all 3 of those things.
They're proving that we should really discuss the 4th because it's not a single one, but yeah.
Basically, the idea behind that is if you have an average team and you have 3 players or position, or I guess you could say like those 3 things covered, like you're going to be a playoff team at the very least.
Yes.
They don't have an average offensive line. They have the worst offensive line. CJ Stroud faced pressure rate of 38.89%. That actually seems a lot lower than it felt like. Like 38.89%, I was like, oh, they actually did kind of better than it looked.
Oh, they actually didn't give it up on half the time. It was only more
clearly,
than a third of the plays.
To be clear, that is a terrible,
it's atrocious,
terrible performance, right? Like 38.9% is awful. But it somehow doesn't do justice to how bad they looked. Like, this team looked terrible. Their offensive line played terrible. And it doesn't help that their offensive coordinator, I'm forgetting his name, was basically pulling a Zach Taylor and said, like, what if instead of using all of the good things that we have on this team, we played an offensive game plan that played to our weaknesses, right? What comes to mind, and it was so funny, listening to the broadcasters and specifically Dan Orlowski on this sequence of events. It was 3rd and 1 with 3 minutes left, down by 8 in the 3rd quarter. They run up the middle, get stuffed, and Dan Orlowski and the commentators, which it's always funny on that second Monday night game, they have those 3 announcers, and sometimes I feel like they're all in like a pissing contest, like they're all trying to show like who has better ball knowledge.
Yes.
But they're all talking about like, what are they doing? Like, we all know if they run up the middle, they're gonna get stuffed. So just like play to your strengths. And it was like, yeah. And they did it again on 4th down and got stuffed. Like, it was absolutely unbelievable. And then later down the line, their first red zone trip in the 4th quarter, and they get stuffed. They try to run the ball. They try to do this. They try to do that. The pressure gets to them. The defense plays incredible. I hate how the discord around CJ Stroud is right now, because I truly believe he's a good, talented, gifted leader and quarterback. But yet the Texans, and listen, I'm acting frustrated right now. This is the exact same tone I had in the offseason when I was looking into what their plan was to address this glaring hole in their roster. And when I saw that their plan was to trade away their best offensive lineman and replace him with one of the worst offensive linemen in the last 5 years, I was like, what? And like, I picked them to win the division more not because of my faith in them, but because of my lack of faith in the Colts and the in the Jaguars. they're cooked, man. It's over. Like, I'm out on them. I don't think they're making the playoffs. Like, their offense sucks. The only offense or the only defense they looked remotely like competent against was, the Ravens like third string starters.
Yeah, the Ravens pulling citizens of Baltimore off of the streets, throwing them in a gladiator style. The fans of Baltimore are sitting in the stands, thumbs down. They drag one of them off.
Yeah, it was like a military draft.
Yeah, it was. They're actually John Harbaugh is going door to door in the slums of Baltimore.
Oh my gosh.
So the Broncos scored 33 points in the fourth quarter.
Bad joke. Yeah, that was crazy.
I didn't even hear what you said.
I was nothing. I was going to make a joke. Like, it's like how military recruiters go to like, low income projects to pick kids off the street.
A little too real. That's a tough situation.
Let me
shout out to the troops.
Mark that. So I could potentially take this out. I might leave it in, though. It depends.
So the Broncos scored 33 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. What the heck was even that, right?
I
feel so bad for Giants fans.
I do feel bad for Giants fans, to be clear. It's also one of those things where it's like
that bad.
Well, yeah, but it's also one of those things where it's kind of like the hopes were dashed because of unrealistic hopes based on recent events, where it's like it's a little bit on a very small microcosm what Commanders fans are going through right now, where it's like you're setting expectations that you didn't have 2 weeks ago based on the events of the last 2 weeks. That's a little bit unrealistic. But that being said, losing a game because you gave up 33 points in the fourth quarter is a little tough. And I don't know how this changes my opinions on the Broncos. Can I somewhat, pull the curtain back, not to expose you a little bit, but you texted me early third quarter of this game and said, I'm officially out on the Broncos. And despite this happening, I'm just going to take a guess. I think you might still be out.
Oh, I 100% am.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's weird because, how do I put this? They are winning games that I expected them to win in a manner that I expected them to win, but against teams that I expected them to dominate. Like, the way that I envisioned the Broncos season going is like, they're going to dominate the bad teams, which they had enough of on the schedule, and against good teams, sneak out wins.
You thought that the close wins would be coming against the Chiefs, not against the Giants.
Yeah, not the Jets and the Giants, right? Like, I thought that the way I looked at the season. Yeah, no, literally. It was one of the, like, I looked at this season like the Broncos have an incredible defense, which they do. They have an incredible offensive line, which they do. They have a top-end rushing attack, which actually, when you look at the numbers, they do. And so Bo Nix he can regress. He just has to not suck.
Yeah.
And Bo Nix has sucked. And, I'm nervous to say, like, ooh, I'm out on the Broncos, because, like, when it is just such a clear issue, it can turn around like that. Like, we could look up and the Broncos could, put together some wins, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, look at that.
Well, the funny thing is, just to be clear, we're having this discourse right now.
West.
I was going to say, they're the 3 seed and leading the AFC West. So let's, we put ourselves out on a limb here, folks. This ain't USA Today. Our power rankings are not the standings. We're looking a little bit deeper here. It's kind of the same that I did with the 49ers, where, this team is leading the AFC West and is the 3 seed currently in the AFC. They're probably going to be a playoff team, but my opinion on them has not, purely based on their record, they're going to be in a slightly better position than I thought they would be.
Yeah.
But substantively, none of my thoughts on this team have changed.
It's funny because because we had this big disagreement about who's going to be the team competing against the Chiefs to actually like potentially take the AFC West. You said the Chargers, I said the Broncos. After 7 weeks, the one thing we would probably think to be using to determine who would be right was record, and yet it really doesn't matter.
No. Now, I am concerned about the Chargers, let's be clear, but I
Oh, for
still
sure.
feel
But
like
that's like, for me, it's like as simple as just like an injury thing.
an injury
Like their
thing.
O-line is battered.
And
So
also
it's
their
like,
schedule, looking back on it now, is the games that they've lost for the most part have been tougher losses than we would have expected them to be.
yeah, yeah. And so I don't know. I I am not out on the Broncos. I'm not more in. I am new. I am staying put as of now.
Yeah.
Because if they can beat the Eagles in the same way that they beat the Jets and the Giants, that doesn't seem sustainable. But they're still winning these games.
Yeah.
And so that's enough for me to say, like, I'm not totally out. But man, Bo Nix, dude, a Boverfro. That's what people are calling it. Because like how, and you know, to go into a little bit of the scheme and the X's and O's, they establish the run and then Bo Nix just misses the deep shot.
Yeah.
And that's their offense. They drive and get stalled at the 50-yard line and punt it. That's how all of their drives have been seeming to go until the very last second where they pull some miracle off.
Shifting a little bit to the NFC playoff picture, a game that not in its final score, but in the vibe of the game actually went exactly how I thought it would. And I'll take the wins that I can get from predictions this week. Cowboys versus Commanders.
Yeah.
Although
I have that game
at the same time, you kind of got a little bit of tick of correctness from your is there actually a path for Dak Prescott MVP narrative? Not that you were buying stock,
and also
but just the existence of a path.
Yeah. And in the offseason, I specifically said that like when we picked our biggest fallers and risers, my biggest faller was the Commanders.
Yeah.
Right. And like part of the reason why is because I was
agreed.
like, this defense, like Jaden Daniels can regress and still look elite. But what regression for him looks like is he's not carrying this like just pretty much awful secondary across the finish line.
Well, also, let's be clear, this is not discounting your analysis. Most all of it was correct. But on top of it, the simplistic analysis that I've said about Jaden Daniels from the beginning, and this entirely fits into me still thinking that he is an elite quarterback. He's a $190 sopping wet as an NFL quarterback. He's officially, and I do legitimately feel bad. Did you see about Jaden Daniels' mother, what she tweeted out? Did you see about that? Like,
no, I didn't.
No, she tweeted out after the game something to the extent of like, words have power. Stop like talking about my son as if he's RG3. And it's like, I do feel bad because a lot of times sports fans can kind of speak some of these things into existence. But on the flip side of thing, just talking literally, like, it's also just correct analysis. Like, he is a slight framed mobile quarterback who, when he gets hit, it looks rough. Like, Josh Allen taking the same amount of force on a hit as Jaden Daniels looks like a completely different sport being played.
And so here's the thing, and I think that the reason why I highlighted this game was to talk about Jaden Daniels, because when you look at the numbers, so by the way, shout out to Sumar Brain. Sumar Sports is like an analytical company. They actually work with like the NFL, and they have this AI. And I was able to get it to basically project Jaden Daniels' season based on the numbers, which of course is like flawed analysis, but it does paint an interesting picture. In terms of his passing, he's actually playing pretty well, pretty similar to how he did last year. The biggest drop off that he's had in terms of this year and last year is his rushing explosiveness, which means rushing plays in which he gains 10 plus yards. So his rate of rushing explosive plays was 18.92% last year, and it's 15.91% this year, which is a change in 3%. And he's also facing significantly more pressure from this year to last year. Overall, his EPA per play has dropped by almost a full 0.1 points. The reason why, so in the way EPA is calculated,
I was going to say, for people who don't know EPA, that's a pretty substantial drop. 0.1 is pretty substantial.
Yeah, it's pretty substantial. So expected points added is EPA. And one of the biggest ways that a quarterback can increase their EPA is rushing downs for two reasons. The first one is because a lot of times when quarterbacks are rushing, it's in a scenario where the play is deemed dead, right? Like there's a lot of pressure in their face, or, the defense has good coverage. There's no one getting open, and they're making something out of nothing and extending the drive. And so when you have a mobile quarterback like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, they generally just like dominate in EPA. Baker Mayfield,
and I've
was
had
to.
The biggest problem with this overall over the last few years, the last half decade, has been Lamar Jackson and a little bit Josh Allen.
Yeah,
it's like, obviously I love Lamar Jackson, not so much Josh Allen. But I do always have to have discussions with people. I've gotten into online arguments when fans of Lamar and Josh bring up the EPA battle against Mahomes. And I'm like, at the end of the day, the statistic, it's kind of like fantasy football, where it's like the way that the metric designs favors mobile quarterbacks inherently. It's not to, I'm not discrediting them, but throwing up a statistic that accentuates mobile quarterbacks and being like, look, this mobile quarterback is better than yours, is like, wow, okay.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So the point that I'm making, though, is this archetype of quarterback, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, there is a fine line between rushing too quickly and holding the ball too long.
Lamar figured that out.
Before Lamar Jackson, so he did, but this year he's struggling.
But this year he's
right.
That was kind of my implication. Yeah, it's looked weird this year. Early in the season, he hasn't played.
Early against the Lions and against the Chiefs, though, that line, I felt like he listen, the offensive line did him no favors, but he was holding on to the ball. Honestly, this whole year, really, he has just kind of struggled to determine, should I take off or should I, throw the ball? Should I hold on to it? What should I do in the situation? How should I use this incredible weapon that is my speed and my mobility to my advantage? So Jaden Daniels this year, that is going to be a question that he's going to have to answer. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because just generally, we're going to have more quarterbacks like this, come to the NFL, right? Coaches are going to start saying wow, you have these traits. Let's figure out how you can throw the ball and you're going to be dominant. And so for all the guys that are coming in the future, for Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson now, they're going to have to figure out and coaches too, coordinators, quarterbacks, coaches, when is it opportune for me to run the ball? When is it opportune for me to stay in the pocket? How long should I hold on to the ball? Should I go because the default setting for these types of quarterbacks is I see a lane, I'm going. But we saw with Lamar Jackson early in his career, that led to a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
And
it also led to multiple MVPs, but yeah.
Well, but the difference is that
your point
his
is
first
well
MVP
taken.
was kind of the exception, right? His first MVP was holy crap, he's running the ball better than anyone ever has at the quarterback position. His second MVP was holy crap, not only is he running the ball efficiently, but now he's starting to pass the ball at an incredible rate and clip and efficiently and doing so. Now he's found this balance of holding onto the ball when I should take out, all of those things. The point that I'm making basically is just that Jaden Daniels right now is struggling with that particular aspect of what that type of it's a new one, right? It's a new question that quarterbacks of this archetype have to figure out. And so when I chose the Commanders to regress, part of what I was saying is eventually when you have a rookie season like he did, there's going to be some things to figure out in the sophomore year. And so,
that's
kind of what we're seeing with the
outlook for this season for the Commanders, just to put a button on it, is that they're 3-4 right now. They're going to be without Jaden Daniels going on the road to the Chiefs.
Schedule.
they'll be 3-5. And with an ascendant NFC, the Seattle Seahawks on the scene, the 49ers returning to the seed, it's legitimate. It's more than on the table. I am assuming that most live betting places that the Commanders are favored at this point to miss the playoffs. So, one last note that we can end on before, very quick, before we get to our Week 8 predictions. My Arizona Cardinals, which I have a soft spot for, after starting the season 2-0, they've lost 5 straight. Adam, do you want to guess the total amount of points combined that they've lost by in those 5 games?
5?
Well, no, but 13. They've lost 5.
Okay.
They've lost 5.
I thought it was going to be like
kind
extreme,
of a ridiculous. That is extreme. What are you talking about? Yeah, I do this bit all the time. I do this all the time where you want to guess, and you lowball. You lowball so much. It always ruins
Jonathan, my
it.
math was totally off. That would assume that basically they lost by a point in 5 straight games.
Yes.
What a terrible
Screw
guess. Just awful.
No, they've lost 5 straight games by less than 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, crazy.
So it's almost hard to discuss. Like, Arizona's offense has been bad for most of the season, but at the same time, it's like this team is also kind of right there. I mean, 13 points, the difference between it's not really how it works, but 13 points being the difference between 7-0 is kind of crazy.
Here's the thing. What I'm learning about the Cardinals. One, their defense is incredibly underrated.
I'm learning that Kyler Murray is done.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think the best way to describe how he runs an offense is hectic. The constant, like, feet
He's
chattering.
a little hellion.
Like, yeah, just like running around like,
Like, and I get that the bit is going to sound like the played out joke because of his size. But he plays he plays the offense like he's a toddler.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, it's hard to establish rhythm when you're playing like that. Like, when you're constantly, and it's like, when it works, it looks incredible.
But
when
Marvin
it
Harrison
doesn't
Jr.
work, it looks so incredibly stupid. Like, it looks dumb. It's like, what is even on my screen right now?
But you have two guys who, like, Marvin Harrison Jr. still needs to somewhat prove, but it's also kind of arguing from the negative of, like, he's having to deal with this Kyler Murray offense. Even with Kyler Murray at the helm, Trey McBride is with Brock Bowers being out right now. Trey McBride's the default best tight end in the league. You have 2 of the best pass catchers in the league. And they don't overlap with each other. They do entirely different things. And this offense has no dynamism whatsoever.
It's looked better, honestly, with Jacoby Brissett in there. Obviously he takes too many sacks. That's always been a thing throughout his career. But
I really thought that they were going to have a game-winning drive with Jacoby Brissett at the end of it.
Me too. That's what it felt like. Like, they... and I think it's important to also talk about the Packers. The Packers are weird, man. Because they're one of those teams.
Stay tuned if you're watching this to Saturday's episode. We'll discuss that a bit more.
Yeah, so they are one of those teams where both defensively and offensively, when it works, they look like the best team in the league. Like, when they put together a drive, it's like how do you even, like, what do you do? Right? Like, there's nothing that anyone can do to stop this. And then, seemingly out of nowhere, they'll go 3 and out, and it's like, well, what happened? Like, Tucker Kraft was just the best tight end in football, and now he's not getting the ball. It's just, I don't know. It's just kind of weird.
Yet, technically, right now, they're the 1 seed in the NFC.
Yeah, I know. That's what's weird about it. Anyway, one last thing that I want to talk about before we go to our predictions. Gotta shout out Drake May.
Oh,
right?
of
We
course.
can't
My
talk about
goodness.
we can't not talk. So one of the things that you said, and again, it's kind of scary how right you were when you said this. You basically, when you were projecting the Patriots to, be a riser, you said based on their schedule and Vrabel alone, they are going to win 3, 4, 5 more games, right? They're going to win, right?
Mhm.
6, 7, 8 games. If Drake May takes the franchise leap, they're a playoff team. That is exactly what's happened in 7 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Like that's exactly what happened. It's their schedule, and then Drake May is playing potentially, arguably the best football in the NFL right now. He has a completion percentage of 75.2%. He has the big wins. He has all the stats to back it up.
It's him and
The only
Mahomes.
thing
In
you could
terms of
say,
QB play right now,
yeah, yeah, yep. Him, Mahomes, Dak Prescott, I feel like are the clear
and
top
we'll
3.
give some love. It doesn't look that I'm not
Daniel
just saying
Jones.
this. It
Gotta
doesn't
talk
look
about
the
Indiana
same.
Jones.
It is a little bit more. You want to hear something hilarious? So I have a friend
What?
who, he works an office job, and they're literally having like water cooler football talk. And he was telling me it was 3 guys, him and 2 other guys. And the other guy was trashing on the Colts. And, he said, Danny Dimes, he's going to show back up any day now. And the other guy goes, put some respect on his name. That's Danny Dollars now.
That's so awesome.
And I love that so much. He's officially, until this, he's Danny Dollars.
Why does Daniel Jones have the best nicknames?
It's so great.
He has 3 now. Danny Dimes is good, I feel like. Danny Dollars, incredible.
And just
Indiana Jones, take me away.
And just wait till it starts paying off and you get Danny dividends.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. If
We've
you
never
had stock
been more
in dude, Daniel Jones, like you are living life right now. Oh my gosh, Danny dividends. That's dude, right now. That's a good analogy for how Kevin O'Connell pushes out quarterbacks, right? He's like a bank with like a high interest, like with a high APR or APY,
The Federal Reserve hates this one simple trick. And it's just Kevin O'Connell in a room churning it out.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Kevin O'Connell is the index funds of NFL coaches related to, or of NFL coaches related to.
Kevin O'Connell's the Warren Buffett.
Quarterbacks. Oh my gosh. But yeah, no, Drake May playing incredibly. And you look at the Patriots schedule, they are probably going to be a playoff team.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's hard to imagine otherwise.
They are, right? Like I'm looking at it. They have this like no. There is no. It's like Buffalo.
We went
and Baltimore,
through this preseason, and I read the list out to you, and you did the counting on your fingers, and you were conservative, and you came out to 9 wins. Based on what you've seen now, we're looking at a range of being conservative 10 wins.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible.
But
all right, but we can move on. For the people at home, why don't you explain this game point system? That we've been talking about. Quick overview of what it's about.
Every week we predict every single game. You get 1 point if you get the game right. You get no points if you get the game wrong. The twist is that we have upset alert. If a team is underdogs by 2.5 points or more, then you have 2 options. You can either pick them to cover the spread, in which you get 3 points, or you can pick them to outright win, where you get 3 points plus however many points they were underdogs by. As of last week, Adam and I were 1 point apart, with Adam at 68 points and myself at 67. After this last week, Adam had a 19-point week, shattering the previous record, and now sits at 87 total points. I had the worst week of anyone so far with 6 points, so I now sit at 73. Adam has a 14-point lead over me in a span of a single week.
Screw you, man. And, the upset alerts are everything. I picked the Bengals to beat the Steelers. That gave me 3 points for the win, and then 5 points on top of that for the spread.
And for
you
reference,
picked the Dolphins to beat the Browns, and we all saw how that went.
And for reference, getting upset alerts wrong loses you points, but especially when you pick an outright win. If you pick an outright win, and not only do they not win, but they don't even cover the spread, which is what happened in my case, you lose 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Which,
tough.
real quick, let's talk about that, because the Dolphins seem to be really holding tight to the idea of Mike McDaniel. Which signals to me
so.
that Tua's going to get benched.
No, Tua already is benched.
I think that is their... Oh, they did? Well, they benched him in the game. I didn't know if that was like official for...
I guess I thought I saw a notification of something saying that it was pretty much official. It may not be, but it's certainly on the table. We don't need to rehash my whole Mike McDaniels discourse, which, again, to add the nuance to it, I don't dislike Mike McDaniels. I think he is a good head coach, but I think that this is just destined for a train wreck. It has been for the last 2 years. I've been talking about it all off season. Don't ask me why I picked the Dolphins to win this game. I was in a bad spot, man. So
yeah,
I broke kind of like my golden rule that I set for myself this season, which is to not pick the Dolphins in a single game. But yeah, I don't understand it.
We created that rule with both of the Saints and the Dolphins, and I've stuck to it completely, and it has worked pretty much every time, except for one time for both of them.
Yes. But yeah, let's move on. I'm coming back this week with a vengeance. We're starting off Thursday Night Football, Vikings at Chargers.
Mm-hmm. This is the battle of the backup O-lines.
Yes.
Minnesota has not had a healthy offensive line since the season started. One of the biggest reasons why I was high on Minnesota is because I believed in the moves that they made in the offseason. They have not come to fruition because of those injuries. This is going to be a really interesting game. I think it's one of those games. I think, is Joe Alt going to play?
I don't know if he is. I'll go ahead and say now it doesn't really matter to me. I think the Chargers stabilize and they win this game. I have the Chargers.
He could, because there was question marks about it last week.
Yeah,
I'm picking the Chargers as well. It's one of those things where it's like, Brian Flores is going to throw a lot of things at Justin Herbert as he does. I think Justin Herbert can handle it, and especially if Joe Alt is back. I just don't see a lot of advantages that the Vikings can create other than the pressure. And so the question is, like, is that going to be enough? I don't think so.
Yeah. We look to Dolphins at Falcons in what may be the only team that can outdo the Falcons' bipolarness is the atrociousness of Miami. Give me the Falcons.
I don't think they're bipolar. They just always suck. I'm taking the Falcons.
No. The Falcons are bipolar.
Oh, you mean like overall?
But the Dolphins are so bad that it won't matter.
I see what you
mean.
The
Falcons could have the same game that they played against the Panthers when they lost 30-0 and still win this game.
Yep, I'm with you there.
Chicago at Baltimore.
Nice. Yeah, so this is actually harder than I thought. This was a potential to be my upset alert. I thought like, okay, we're coming off the bye. The Ravens were clearly injured. I'm picking the Ravens. Lamar Jackson is back. I think he's going to have a bounce back game. Obviously their season is still pretty bleak, but I think they're going to go out swinging at the very least, and that would start with a victory over the Bears.
I don't necessarily disagree with your analysis, and that's why, to be clear, I didn't make this my upset alert, but I have the Bears winning this game. I think that this is a situation where it could get ugly, where you're not wrong that the Ravens do come out swinging, and they just don't land any shots, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, what is this season? Is this like legitimately the season from hell for Baltimore?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. Like, this is, in my mind, this is going to be the game where it's like, all right, they have a chance, right? Like, there's still
It almost mathematically
something
has to
there.
be. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Or this is the game where it's like, all right, nope, it's done. Like,
Yeah. I mean,
season's over.
it has been a long time since we've seen Baltimore win a football game.
True. Yeah.
Uh,
I'm basically saying, like, I'm just betting on the fact that they're at least going to extend their window for one more week.
yeah. Bills at Panthers.
I'm not going to I know that the Bills had 2 bad losses before their bye. I'm not going to overcomplicate this. I'm picking the Bills. Yeah.
Same here. No need to overcomplicate it. Buffalo wins.
Mhm.
Jets at Bengals.
So, to be clear, I'm going to pick the Bengals. This is kind of hard for me.
It's a bad
The
spot.
reason why, it's just like, again, before early in the episode, you said take your victory lap, and I immediately was like, started complaining about how the Bengals like draw you in and then, throw you to the dirt. This feels like a position where I'm about to get thrown to the dirt.
Mhm.
The other thing too is that not only like the Bengals just have this history of teams sucking really bad, and right before they play us, they bench their quarterback and we lose to the backup. It happened with Cooper Rush with the Cowboys. Dak Prescott got injured. Cooper Rush came in and won the game for us. It happened against the Jets with Mike White.
Oh, yeah. I remember that game.
And it happened with Tyler Huntley, I believe, at
Mhm.
one point. I'm picking the Bengals because I think like our offense should be able to, like, I can't imagine a world like if we lose, if our offense sucks this game and it's like back to the same old, try to run the ball and then throw the deep ball, like
Well, no, I'm
I
picking the
can't imagine
Bengals
Zach
too,
Taylor is
but
that stupid.
as a non-Bengals fan, I don't know the ins and outs of the team and as much as you do. Just as a football fan, I look at this situation in the context behind it, I go, "Oh, that's a bad spot. That's
That's just dangerous,
that's a
man.
letdown spot right there." But I will tepidly pick
Hopefully,
Cincinnati.
hopefully Joe Flacco can continue what he's been doing and it won't look atrocious. Hopefully Tyrod Taylor doesn't ruin my week.
He has shot. But 49ers at Texans.
Yeah, I'm picking. I think I don't know who I'm picking actually.
It's another one. This is a tough week of a lot of teams where you're like, one team should win this game, but I'm not sure they
Yeah.
will. I'm going 49ers. I'm not going to overcomplicate this in my head. I don't care that Nick Bosa and Fred Warner is out. They can still get
I
pressure.
think I'm with you. It's yeah, like we saw that. It's like if they didn't do like, is Bryce Huff gonna just go on like this crazy 2-week tear? Made some great plays against the Falcons. Like he's probably licking his chops right now thinking about the Texans offensive line.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm picking the 49ers.
Okay. Browns at Patriots.
I'm going New England.
I'm going to go New England as well. No need to overcomplicate
Here's
it.
the thing. I'm not overcomplicating it, but this is another situation where it's like, this is Will Campbell's first real test.
Yes.
Like this offensive line, it's one of those things where Drake May has played incredible, and so the offensive line hasn't looked as bad as I think it actually is, and Will Campbell has also played really well. But I feel like this could be a 5-sack game for Cleveland, and the Patriots still win pretty handily.
That's probably correct analysis. Giants at Eagles.
Again, I'm picking the Eagles.
This actually isn't that complex for me, just based on the fact the Eagles are not getting swept by the Giants. The Eagles might run up the score in this one.
Yeah, I think they will too.
Buccaneers at Saints. As I already said earlier in the episode,
Spencer Rattler, you had one heck of a run, kind of. I'm picking the Buccaneers.
Cowboys at Broncos.
What are your thoughts on this game?
My thoughts on this game are that The Broncos are 4-point favorites, and I'm picking the Cowboys to win outright.
Me too!
Dang it!
They're my underdog. No! They're my upset alert. No, I promise you, I have it written down. Cowboys to beat the Broncos. No.
Dang it.
Actually, that's actually pretty awesome for me because it basically guarantees I'm going to sustain my lead regardless of what happens.
Dang it.
Oh my gosh, let's go. Yeah, no, I just feel like the Dallas Cowboys offense, Dak Prescott is playing the best of any quarterback under pressure to a point where it's like, yeah, that's an advantage that the Broncos have. I still feel like with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens and like just the way that offense is played, that they're going to be able to run up points against this incredible defense. And
I'm ticked off at you right now.
Defense
Stop
hasn't
talking.
looked good.
Stop stealing my upset
I mean,
alert.
I'm telling you, like, it's a good. You stole my upset alert. First off, oh my gosh, I can't believe we picked the same team. This is the first time that's happened. But yeah, no, I'm picking the Cowboys to beat the Broncos. I just feel like this just feels like a time where it's like, okay, we're gonna see, right? Like this is gonna be the game where I'm like, all right, I'm done with the Broncos.
Titans at Colts.
I'm going the Colts.
I am going the Colts as well. Another one that I feel sketchy about, but Packers at Steelers.
I don't know. Oh, this is tough for me.
For me, I think it's the inverse of the Bengals Jets game where I think I feel pretty good about picking the Steelers.
Aaron Rodgers' revenge game. It's the Aaron Rodgers revenge game. I'm picking the Packers.
Okay.
I am picking the Packers. I feel like I said before, I feel like the Steelers are basically starting to show like they're the same old Steelers. So I'm sticking with that. The Packers have not looked inspiring enough for me to say like confidently that that's the case. And the fact that Aaron Rodgers, I just feel like anything can happen, coming to their house, right?
Yeah. No, you're not wrong.
It'd be interesting.
It should be a very entertaining game. It's why it's the Sunday Night Football.
But I also feel like there's this world where the Packers just destroy them.
Entirely on the table. Entirely on the table. Commanders at Chiefs Monday Night Football.
I'm picking the Chiefs. I mean, yeah, there's not much to say.
There really isn't. I mean, we could talk really quickly about the fact that the Chiefs held the Raiders to 3 first downs while the Chiefs had 30. I just have to get that in there because we didn't get it in
insane.
earlier.
Yeah, that's
literally
true.
10
that's
times
insane.
the amount of first downs.
I just feel like, to give my simple analysis, the Chiefs offense has looked as good as like the best it's looked since the Mahomes MVP season. The Commanders defense in their secondary looks not good.
Yeah.
And I think that, it's one of those, and you said Jaden Daniels isn't playing, right?
I'm pretty sure he's at best going to be questionable. I think he's pretty.
I think the reports that I read earlier today is that like pretty much what you said, there's about like a 50-50 chance leaning towards he's probably going to play. Either way, Spagnuolo knows how to handle a mobile quarterback.
Better than maybe anyone in the league.
Exactly. So picking the Chiefs.
Yep. Well, that is our Week 8 predictions. Adam is cheating his way into maintaining his lead. It's messed up.
I'm not, dude. Hey, man, don't hate the player, hate the game.
If you liked this video, comment, like, share it, force all of your friends to watch it. Adam, pick a player whose highlights the folks at home should watch.
Yeah, I'm gonna take my victory laugh. Joe Flacco, man. Look up old Joe Flacco highlights.
Something about Flacco.
He was putting the ball where it needed to. He was putting the ball where it needed to be.
Something in his eyes.
Sometimes, but Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco.
Veteran Bengals legend, Joe Flacco.
Bengals legend, Joe Flacco. AFC
Joe Flacco.
North legend. Every team in the AFC North should just honorarily retire even though he hasn't played for the Steelers. They just have to. They have a 3/4 majority.
Oh my gosh.
Well, folks,
Alrighty, guys. With that, see you later.
peace.